What I have done in this PPT is, in the presentation today, is I have included a lot of previous year questions, largely from the papers that have happened after 2020. So many of these questions are from AILET 22, some of them from 23, and then some from 24 and 25. So AILET tends to ask a lot of deductive questions so far, especially after 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. In all these 5 years, AILET tends to ask a lot of these syllogism and conditional questions. Now, what we'll do is, also before we start off with this session, I'd like to tell you that we will do a session 2, part 2 of this, wherein I'll cover assumptions, statement assumption, statement conclusion, strong and weak argument, and some of the miscellaneous questions covering method of reasoning and maybe parallel reasoning. Those topics I'll cover day after tomorrow, which is the Friday, around 12 to 2. We'll let you know about that. So coming back to the session today, so what I'll do is, I'll cover the basics, the Venn diagram, the minimum overlap diagrams, and then I'll also cover the basics of conditionals. And in doing so, we'll keep doing some questions that have been asked in previous years, right? So we'll start off with the basics of syllogism, and we'll start off with the Venn diagrams. All right, before we start off with the Venn diagrams, we'll quickly look at these 4 important words, the 4 standard syllogism words: all, some, no, some not, right? As we already understand, all would mean 100. If I'm saying all S are P, it would mean that all the elements of S are in P, so 100%. Some would mean 1 to 100. If I'm saying some S are P, that at least one element of S is in P, and maximum it could be 100 elements of S, all elements of S in P. So we remember, right, that sum is inclusive of 1 and 100 both. It's not the case that sum does not include 100. So remember this, okay? I'll just keep highlighting the points where students get confused, right? So sum is 1 to 100 and not 1 to 99. No is obviously 0, and sum not, when I'm saying sum S are not P, then minimum 0, maximum 99. So either 0 S is P, not either, but it could be the case that 0 S is P, no S is P, or it could also be the case that 99 elements of S are in P, or anything in between, right? So it could take 0, 99, or anything in between. Okay, so 0 to 99 is how I quantify sum not, right? So these become the foundational, once again, these become the foundational sort of foundations for us to expand our logic on when we are solving these questions, right? So we remember this. Okay. Moving on, we will look at very quickly, we will look at all the diagrams for these 4 statements. Again, the 4 statements being all SRP, some SRP, no SRP, and some SR not P. So we will look at each of these statements individually, and we will look at the possible diagrams for all of them, starting with all SRP. So for all SRP, we understand these are the 2 ways, right? These are the 2 ways to draw all SRP. Both are equally possible. It's not the case that the left one is more likely to happen than the right one. We also understand that. So both are equally possible. So it's like 50% chance of this happening and 50% chance of this happening, right? But when we are solving questions, right, we draw the minimum overlap diagram. Okay, this is the diagram we draw when we are solving questions, because it affords us some convenience when we are solving questions, right? We don't have to draw all the diagrams, all possible diagrams for each of the statements. That's not feasible. So what grants us that convenience is we just do with the minimum overlap diagram. Okay, but of course in our head we understand these are the two possible ways to draw for all SRP, right? Now the definite conclusions and possible conclusions, again, very simple. Some SRP is a definite conclusion from all SRP. Why? Because it's there, we can see it in both the diagrams. Some SRP, some PRS is a definite conclusion, we see it in both the diagrams again. All PRS is a possibility because it is true only in one diagram, which is the diagram on the right. And some PR not S is also only a possibility because we see it only in the left diagram in the minimum overlap, right? So two definite conclusions. So definite conclusions are the ones which we mark when they ask us which one of the following is true, or which one can be inferred, or which one follows, right? When they ask us follows, we are only picking the marking the definite conclusions. Possible conclusions, they are a possibility, 50% chance of them happening, right? I'll quickly look into the chat box also. Okay, right. So why are we saying, somebody's asking, why are we saying all PRS is a possibility? Because if you look at the diagram on the right, okay, all PRS is there only in this diagram on the right. So basically when we are given all SRP, we don't know for sure as to whether all PRS or not. There's nothing said about that. So when we are looking at a statement like all PRS given all SRP, all we can say is we are not sure about this. The chances of it happening are 50-50, right? So that is like the intuition. You can build the intuition this way. Something I don't know, the chances of it happening in the deductive world, something I don't know, the chances of it happening are 50%, right? And then there is a diagram way to understand it. All PRS, we don't see it in both the diagrams. It's just there in one of the diagrams, so it is only a possibility. A definite conclusion is one which is there in both the possible diagrams of that particular statement. All right. Okay. So the next statement is some SRP. So again, for some SRP, we can draw more than a diagram, right? So for some SRP, we have drawn these three diagrams. Okay. So in all of the three diagrams, we understand some part of S is in P. So when we are given some SRP, we are not sure how much of S is in P. It could be just 1, it could be 100, or it could be anything in between, right? So some SRP can be drawn like this, wherein all PRS. Some SRP can be drawn like this, wherein all SRP. And some SRP could also be drawn like this, where there is only some portion of SNP that overlaps. Okay. Now, the definite conclusion coming from this statement, some SRP, is some PRS. Why? Because it's there in all the three diagrams, right? And we can see, right, there is no other statement that's true in all the three diagrams. So there is only one definite conclusion from some SRP. If somebody asks what follows from some SRP, we can only say some PRS. That's it. The statements that are possible are all PRS, all SRP, some SR not P, and some PR not S, right? So again, if we quickly look at these possible conclusions, all PRS only true in one of the diagrams, all SRP only true in one of the diagrams, some SR not P true in not all three diagrams, but just two. So अगर आप देखोगे some SR not P, so it's true here in this diagram. It's true here in this particular diagram, but it's not true over here. So again, you know, if we have not done syllogism enough, right? So when we get a statement like some S are not P, something like some black or white is given, and then a conclusion statement is given, some black are not white. So the tendency is that we mark this as a definite conclusion, but it is not. It is only a possibility. So that is one key thing to remember here, that from some SRP, some SR not P does not follow. And yes, of course, some P are not S also does not follow, because it is, if you look at this diagram, it's not true here. Okay. When we are solving questions, we don't need to draw all the three diagrams. When we come across a sum wala statement, we are just drawing the minimum overlap diagram. For all the statements, right? I'll keep sort of repeating it. For all these statements, when we are approaching the questions, when we are solving the questions, we are only doing with the minimum overlap diagram. We are not drawing all the possible diagrams, right? All right. So let me see if, okay, so far so good. Then we can move on to the next statement, which is no SRP. So as the name suggests, there is no overlap between S and P, and that's how we have drawn it. And when we are drawing for no SRP, we draw these two disjointed circles, right? And not only that, we also draw a line between these two circles. So whether you want to draw the line or not, it's totally up to you. I draw the line because it makes my diagram sort of very clear. Because you'll realize when we'll solve some questions, when we get these questions, right, we end up drawing a lot of circles. So for example, I'm drawing 3 circles and there is 1, 2, and 3, right? And there is a statement given, no 1 is 2. So if I draw this line, it keeps the diagram simple and clear. So what I know from this diagram is 1 and 2 cannot overlap. S and P cannot overlap. 1 and 3 may overlap. 2 and 3 may overlap, but 1 and 2 cannot overlap. So it just keeps the diagram very clear, right? So I prefer drawing a line. Now, no SRP, definite conclusions. If no SRP, then obviously no PRS, right? And some S are not P. If no SSP, obviously some S are not P, right? And no SSP and no PRS, so some P are not S. So these are the 3 definite conclusions. There is no other possible diagram, right? And no possible conclusion. So this one is a simple one. Okay. All right. The next one is some SR not P, and this is an interesting one because it tends to confuse people. So some SRP, whether it comes as a statement or it comes as a conclusion, this is a tricky one. But I'm sure at this stage, you have solved many syllogism questions already. You must be able to even deal with this statement. But yes, let's go over it. So we are given some SR not P, and we remember that the range here was 0 to 99, right? So when I'm saying that some SR not P is 0 to 99, right? So what is the minimum overlap between S and P? 0, right? So what will be the minimum overlap diagram? This diagram, much like no SRP. So no SRP and some SR not P, similar minimum overlap diagrams, right? Again, in order to differentiate the two, right? Because I want to keep the diagram very clear when I'm, solving so many questions on the AILET. I don't want the diagram to confuse me in midway when I'm working with a lot of sort of some anxiety and then just rushing through the questions. So what I do when I'm drawing for sum SR not P, I just draw a dotted line. Some of you would also want to just do a cross here. Just a second. Just do a cross here to show that it's the diagram is for sum SR not P and not sum PR not S. So I'm drawing a cross on the side of the S, right? So it shows that some elements of S are not P. But of course, this minimum overlap diagram is showing no SRP. Why? Because the minimum overlap in case of sum not is also 0, right? But we understand there may be an overlap. So there are other ways to draw sum SR not P. So these are the two other ways to draw sum SR not P, right? So if I have to shade sum SR not P, in this case, this is the portion which shows sum SR not P, which is the complete S. And in this diagram, this is the portion which depicts sum SR not P. And in this is the portion that shows sum SR not P, right? Now, if you look at the three diagrams closely, right, there is no statement that's sort of true in all the three diagrams, right? Just look at them very closely, right? Some of you might have done it already. For some, it's relatively new, but just have a closer look at the three diagrams, right? So you will find no statement that is true in all the three diagrams. So the point here is, from sum SR not P, there is no definite conclusion. We cannot derive anything. Are there some possible conclusions? Obviously, we have three possible diagrams. So there will be some possible conclusions, right? So let's check those possible conclusions. Number one, all PRS, coming from here. Number two, some SRP, again, coming from here, here, then some PRS, again, coming from these two diagrams, some PR not S, right? And this is interesting. So from some SRP, some PRS follows. We just checked. But from some SR not P, some PR not S does not follow. So again, if we are given something like some black are white, or let's say the initial statement is some black are not white, right? And then conclusion is given some white are not black. So that conclusion does not follow. It is only a possibility. Why? Because all PRS is also a possibility. So some PR not S, right? It's true here. Some PR not S. It's true here in the third diagram, but it's not true in this diagram. And therefore, some PR not S is only a possibility from some SR not P. Again, this is something, if we haven't developed intuition around, we must just commit it to our memory. Okay. Then no SRP and no PRS coming from here. So these are the 6 possible conclusions, right, from some SR not P, and we understand there is no definite conclusion, right? All right, so with this, right, with this we can move on to solving the questions. So just before that, this is a quick sort of recap. These are the 4 diagrams that we draw when we are solving the questions. Again, these are the minimum overlap diagrams for each of the statements. Okay, we understand for all, some, and some not, right? There are other possible diagrams. right? But when we are solving questions, to make it sort of very straight and simple, we are just drawing the minimum overlap diagrams. Okay. And then before we go on to the questions, another sort of concept is of the logical opposites, right? So logical opposites, and we have done this in the classes. So logical opposites is like we are given black and white, and then not black. Okay, so black and white, polar opposites, hot and cold. Logical opposites, black and not black, right? So very quickly, so if I'm saying something is black is true, that thing is white becomes false because they are opposites, and that's the fundamental trait of two opposites. If one is true, the other is false. And so black, when it is true, not black also is false, right? But if I start with the proposition that something is black is a false statement, that thing is white, does it automatically become true? So no, right? It could be any other color. So it is white or not. Forget it. So it is white or not, we are not sure. Okay. Once again, I'm just trying to adjust to this board and pen. Okay. So this is false. Okay, so true or false. And if something is black is false, we start with the proposition. And the statement that it is not black automatically becomes true. So that's the difference between a logical opposite, a pair of logical opposites, and polar opposites, right? So polar opposites, they cannot be true together, right? Logical opposites, they cannot be true together, but also they cannot be false together. If one is false, the other is true. In case of polar opposites, if one is false, the other could be true or false. We are not sure, right? So with that, you can sort of build intuition around polar opposites and logical opposites. Now, if you look at these quantifiers, right? If you look at 100 and 0, right? So these can be called as the polar opposites. Obviously, it's like North Pole, South Pole, black and white. But logical opposites are sum and no. Remember this, in the deductive world, when they ask you the opposite of sum, it is no. And the intuition is that sum is anything between 1 and 100, including 1 and 100, and no is 0. And the other pair of logical opposites is all and some not, right? So again, all is 100 and some not is anything between 0 to 99. So there's no overlap between all and some not. Similarly, there is no overlap between some and no, right? So if all is true, some not is false. All, some not, false. If all is false, some not is true. Same is the case with some and no. So we remember this, right? All and some not opposites, some and no opposites. What kind of opposites? Logical opposites. All and no being polar opposites. Okay. All right. So far, so good. So this is the other concept that would come into play when we solve questions. Okay. So all and some not, no and some. Okay. They cannot be true together. They cannot be false together. All right. Now, so what I have done, as I said, these questions that I have compiled, they have usually come and just placed myself here so that you are able to see the question. So, for example, I think this one is from AILET 2022. Okay. So all the questions on the screen that you'll see today, you'll solve today, are from previous years. Okay. So I'll give you some time to solve it on your own, and then we'll quickly discuss it. Okay. All right. Shall we? And for those who are doing it live, they can, and also I would want to say that now that we have started solving some of the questions, you can sit with a notebook and a pen, and you can keep solving them simultaneously, and keep letting me know the answers. Okay. Those who are viewing it live currently. Okay. Now, so all whales are mammals, and we are drawing, as I said, we are drawing the minimum overlap diagram. Okay. So all whales are mammals. So when you're starting solving, when you're approaching syllogism questions, make sure you are being a little sort of smart in drawing the diagrams, in the sense that just go through all the statements once, and then you start drawing it. Don't do it in the way that you see statement one and you draw it, and then you see statement two and then you draw it, right? Because sometimes what happens is I would have drawn it a little differently had I known this statement would come, right? That keeps happening. So what I'm telling you is, just look at all the statements in one go, and then start drawing it in a manner that it becomes very sort of clear. So if you look here, I'm starting with this particular statement here. I'm starting here with the third one. Some whales are creatures. Okay. And then I'm drawing for one, which is like all whales are mammals, right? Everyone, we understand this. And all creatures breathe, right? So this is mammal, and all creatures breathe. So this is how the diagram would look somewhat. Now, since this is the revision class, we will be solving these questions, fairly quickly. Those who haven't done syllogism using Venn diagram, for you guys, what I'll do is, I have previously taken a detailed session on syllogism on YouTube. So I'll try to link that video as soon as we are done with today's recording. Okay. So there is a detailed video on syllogism on YouTube, right? But currently, since this is happening in a revision mode, we'll try to solve, as in these questions, more quickly. So this is the diagram, everyone. This is the minimum overlap diagram. Now, the statement that is given to us, Mickey Mouse is a whale. Okay. So Mickey Mouse is a whale. Maybe Mickey Mouse is, oops, 1 second. Maybe Mickey Mouse sits somewhere here, right? So as soon as I say Mickey Mouse is a whale and all whales are mammals is given to us, Mickey Mouse becomes a mammal, right? So 5 is for sure we have. And then if you look at the options, because as soon as I know 5 is okay, as soon as I get statement 5, I can play with the options. For example, D is out for me. Okay, what else? Then I'll have to check. Okay, so Mickey Mouse breathes. and this was breathe, right? This was breathe. So we are not sure. We are not sure if it is in this portion of whale where it is overlapping with breathe. Okay, I'll just draw it in some other ink. So it could be the case that Mickey Mouse sits here, and then we can say it breathes, but this is not sure. This is only a possibility, right? So one is out now. So C is out, right? So C is out. And let's look at 2. Mickey Mouse does not breathe. So now we also know if all the given statements are positive, a negative conclusion will not follow. It could be a possibility, but it does not sort of definitely follow. So 2 is also incorrect. So A is out, right? So we reach B quite easily, right? So as soon as you get one conclusion that, you know, one of these statements is definitely a conclusion, just start working around with the options and try to eliminate some of the options, right? Okay. So now also, right, this kind of questions, these kind of questions, we have seen them coming in sort of in 22, in 24, and even in 25. In 23, it was a different sort of a setup pattern, but in 22, 24, 25, we saw a lot many questions. So we are given a set of statements. On these set of statements, we are given various questions, 2 to 3 to 4 questions, right? So even in this, we have another question, right? So this one, okay? So the diagram will remain the same, and just check, the diagram will remain the same. It is. Okay. All right. So we have some answers. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. So the diagram remains the same. Everyone. So this was given, all whales are mammals and all creatures breathe, right? Now, Eiffel Tower is a mammal. So Eiffel Tower is a mammal. Eiffel Tower, you know, all we know, it is a mammal. It is in the mammal wala circle, but we are not sure if Eiffel Tower is also in the whale wala circle, right? So I'm drawing this in red. So this is possible, but we are not sure, okay? But it is definitely in the mammal circle, right? Everything else, whether Eiffel Tower is in the sea wala circle, sea was creatures, we are not sure. Whether Eiffel Tower is in the breathe wala circle, again, we are not sure, right? So we are not sure really. Let's look at the conclusions. Eiffel Tower breathes. As I said, we are not sure about that. So this is gone. Eiffel Tower does not breathe, negative, out. Eiffel Tower is a creature, we are not sure. Eiffel Tower is not a creature, out. Eiffel Tower is a whale, we are not sure. It's definitely in the outer circle. Whether it is in the inner circle, I'm not sure. Not a whale is also out, right? So, which option? D. None of the above. All right. Easy, right? So once I get the diagram, you know, according to me, if you get these sets again, right, it's easier because you just have to draw a diagram once and then you have a set of questions. Okay. So there was a third question also. Let's do this one. Again, the diagram remains the same. You should come to the answer arrive at the answer very quickly. Okay, now people are coming up with the right answers. Okay, now you've gotten a hang, maybe rusty, but so again, the diagram, no prizes for guessing, it remains the same. This was whale, this was breathe. Okay, we are given internet is a creature, so internet sits here, it definitely breathes, right? Whether internet also comes in that overlap region between W and C, we are not sure, right? But it definitely is in the breathe wala circle. So one is fine. So as soon as I get one, let me just quickly check the option list. So D is out for me. Then internet does not breathe is out, 2 is out. Again, so B is out for me. Internet, so maybe I could just check 4. Internet is not a whale. So negative statement from the set of positive statements, a negative conclusion is not a definite conclusion for sure. So C is also out, A is correct. Easy, right? Everyone? Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to again, so the previous, I think, set of questions was 2022. And this one is, if I'm not mistaken, 2024. Okay, just look at these statements. And again, I think there were 2 to 3 questions on these set of statements. Okay, so let's try and solve this one. Okay, keep solving them, people. Okay, all right. So let's look at the diagram here. All paintings jump. One second. So again, I started off with here, okay, with this, the statement in the middle, because I thought that will be easier, it'll become easier for me to deal with. So instead of starting there, I read all paintings jump, some paintings are plants, and all basketballs are plants. So I understood, right, that sum wala statement. So I usually draw the sum wala statement before the all wala statements, okay. So some paintings are plants is where I start, and then all paintings are plants. So this one is plants. Oh, sorry, all paintings jump here. Jump. Okay. Okay, J is already written. Okay. All paintings jump. And then the last statement, look at the last statement. All basketballs are plants, right? So this is basketball. Okay. So it's not the case that all plants are basketball, right? So just be careful when you're drawing these diagrams. So the statement is Mona Lisa jumps. So Mona Lisa jumps, right? Maybe Mona Lisa is somewhere here. She jumps in the sense she sits in the outer circle. Is she also in the inner circle? We are not sure. It could be the case, right? Again, I use the red ink. It could be the case that Mona Lisa is somewhere here. Okay, did not change the ink, but anyway. So it could be the case, I'll just draw this dotted sort of circle. It could be the case that Mona Lisa is in the P wala circle, but we are not sure, right? तो इसलिए मोनालिसा वी आर ड्रॉइंग इन द आउटर सर्कल ओनली. So we are not sure if Mona Lisa paints. Okay, so Mona Lisa is a painting, right? We are not sure. So this is cross for us because it asks us which one of the following is true, and this is only a possibility. So this is out. Mona Lisa is not a plant. So again, a negative statement could only be a possibility and not a definite one. So this is out. Mona Lisa is not a basketball is also out. Again, a negative statement from a set of positive statements. A negative statement is not a definite conclusion. So C is out. D, as to whether Mona Lisa is a painting, a plant, or a basketball, there is not sufficient information. Yes, all of these are only possibilities. So D, Delhi is correct. So this, the ink is key, as in the ink keeps changing between black and red unintentionally. So don't sort of mind that. And let me look at the options that you have given me. Okay. Many of you gave A as the correct option, but A is not the correct option. Okay. Whether Mona Lisa is a painting or not, we are not sure. Right. Jumps wala circle dekho, outer circle. Right. Whether Mona Lisa is also a painting, it's not given sort of, there's no sufficient information. Okay. Much like the question that we did earlier. Do we get this? No, it wasn't. Wasn't. So, you know, whatever we are doing here, it's logically very sound. I don't know which answer keys are giving what answers. We don't care. We are only doing it the right way. Okay. So this is the sound logic. Don't bother about the various answers given. Okay. And let me also tell you, in some of the questions, although AILET, you know, had a spotless sort of reputation till 2023, right? Wherein all questions were 100% correct, almost. Deductive wale to zyadatar correct the, but 24 and 25 they might have given some answers incorrect, right? So don't treat those answers, if there are some incorrect answers to some questions, don't treat them as rules. The rules are just this, right? So we understand Clat tends to give incorrect answers also, but we don't start treating them as rules. So, you know, in AILET, as I said, in 24, 25, there were some problems in the answer key. Don't treat them as rules. We are today, what we are solving is not as per, as in the answer key is not guiding us. The logic is. Remember that. Okay. All right. The next one. Okay. Again, the same set of statements, and but just the last statement will change. Something like, so for this, again, just solve it as per the logic. Okay. For this, I'm sure the answer key, the AILET that had given the answer to this one was incorrect, but we'll come to the right answer. Okay. So solve this one. ठीक है, तो what we'll do is I'll keep it a mix of English and Hindi from here on. ठीक है, तो मैं हिंदी में भी बोलता रहूंगा. ओके. ठीक है, तो confusion है थोड़ा, और I can see it in the chat box कि some people are saying A and some people are saying D. Let's check. तो diagram same रहने वाला है. Okay, but एक यहाँ पे थोड़ा confusion होगा, so just bear with me, okay? तो diagram is the same. Dragon is a plant that jumps. ठीक है, तो देखो ये वाले डायग्राम में अगर आप देखोगे प्लांट दैट जंप्स, एंड इफ यू लुक एट दिस पोर्शन जहां पे प्लांट्स भी है, ठीक है, आई विल नॉट ड्रॉ द सर्कल, इससे कंफ्यूज हो जाएंगे, बट यहाँ पे प्लांट्स भी है एंड जंप्स भी है और पेंटिंग भी है, तो ए ऑब्वियस चॉइस लग रहा है. बट टेल मी, is there any other way to draw this diagram, or this is the only diagram that we can draw for the three statements? What do you think? Is this the only diagram that I can draw, or are there more, or there could be more diagrams? So obviously we can draw more diagrams. This is the minimum overlap, right? Only the minimum overlap diagram. So for example, if I draw something like this, okay, so just look at this diagram that I'm drawing. Maybe I don't know, if I draw it in red and the color changes, hopefully. Okay, so painting, jump, okay, and then we were given some paintings are plants, right? So okay, I'll draw it like this. Some paintings are plants, okay, and all basketball are plants, right? ये वाला भी डायग्राम बन सकता है. This is not the minimum overlap, but we can draw it this way, right? मिनिमम ओवरलैप में वी जस्ट मेक श्योर कि जब पेंटिंग और प्लांट का ओवरलैप हो रहा है, राइट, और जंप्स वाला सर्कल जब हम बना रहे हैं, ये पेंटिंग वाले सर्कल से ओवरलैप कर जाता है यहाँ पे ऑन द एज, राइट, सो दैट एक्स्ट्रा ओवरलैप क्रिएट ना हो बिटवीन जंप एंड प्लांट्स. बट दैट इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी, राइट? देयर कैन बी दिस ओवरलैप. आई जस्ट हाईलाइट दिस between jumps and plants. You see this shaded region? I shaded more, just a second. I'll also use some green. Right? You see this region between plants and jump, जहां पे painting नहीं है. ये possible है? What do you think, everyone? Yes or no? Is it visible? Is the diagram visible? Okay. So yes, plants or jump may there can be some overlap, right? Which is not sort of also coinciding with the P circle. So when I look at this statement, dragon is a plant that jumps, it's not necessary that dragon is also a painting, because it could very well lie just in this region, dragon, and it does not sort of also be in the painting wala circle. This is a possibility, right? So what do you think is the answer then? And let me tell you, AILET ने इसका आंसर, if I'm not wrong, AILET ने इसका आंसर A दिया था. But do we agree? So again, you know, आप ये मत समझना कि ये AILET का रूल है. They made a mistake. As I said, in the past, for many years, almost till 2023, they never made a mistake on deductive questions, right? Conditional वाले भी सारे सही किए और syllogism वाले भी. But yes, last 2 years they have faltered here and there. So the answer to this one, okay, is D Delhi. In fact, when we were analyzing this paper last year or the year before that rather, we gave D as the answer. Okay, everyone. All right. So let's move on. Okay, this was a controversial one, but many that we are solving today won't be controversial. They will be, the answers are given all right by the AILET. Okay, uh, let's look at this one. This involves the use of most. This had come in AILET 2022. तो अभी तक हमने देखा था sum is 1 to 100, right? All is 100. Sum not 0 to 99, no 0. तो most का जो range है, right? This is 51 to 100. So minimum is 51, not 50. Okay. So let's solve this one. Okay, so everyone, I hope you have drawn the diagram, but I'll just try to answer the two questions that I see in the chat box. One is कि MOD के according A होना चाहिए, right? In the previous one, yes, according to the MOD. लेकिन आपको मालूम है जो MOD है, minimum overlap diagram है, that is only a possible diagram, right? मान लो minimum overlap diagram में तो true आ रहा है, but कोई एक ऐसा diagram है जहां true नहीं है, right? Then we are not marking that as a definite conclusion, because we were able to imagine a diagram, a situation जहां पे वो statement true नहीं था. तो वो थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट इसलिए लगा हम लोग को क्योंकि यूजुअली पॉजिटिव स्टेटमेंट्स जब हम आंसर करते हैं तो पॉजिटिव स्टेटमेंट्स एमओडी में ट्रू है तो सब में ट्रू हो जाता है, राइट? तो इसीलिए हम लोग को सारे चेक करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. पर ये जो पीछे वाला स्टेटमेंट था, वी कैन वेरी क्विकली गो बैक टू इट वंस. ड्रैगन इज अ प्लांट दैट जंप्स. ये एक सिंपल कंक्लूजन स्टेटमेंट नहीं था जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट वन एलिमेंट. इट एक्चुअली टॉक्ड अबाउट टू एलिमेंट्स. One was that it is a plant and other was that it jumps. It involved two sort of parameters. तो इसीलिए हम we were able to come up with a possible diagram which I drew जहां पर actually ये follow नहीं हो रहा था, right? So this is a trickier question. Okay, जो नॉर्मल कंक्लूजन पॉजिटिव कंक्लूजन है जहां पे एक ही एलिमेंट इन्वॉल्व है वहां पे एमओडी से काम चल जाएगा, राइट? एंड द अदर क्वेश्चन वाज कि एलेट गेव द आंसर एंड वो तो मार्क्स के लिए, एंड आई कंप्लीटली अग्री विद यू, राइट? कि आई डोंट नो इफ समबडी प्रोटेस्टेड, राइट, posed sort of challenge that question, I'm not sure, right? but you have complete right, as you have seen last year Clat, ठीक है, कंसोर्शियम शुरू में हेजिटेट कर रहा था कि you know we won't accept whatever protest against some of these questions. It was dragged to the court, right? तो इसीलिए you know it can't be the case कि अगर कहीं पर एक बार आंसर देने में गलती कर दी, that becomes the rule for me. As I said earlier, I will always be driven by the logic, right? तो अगर किसी ने गलत आंसर दे दिया, I can't base my sort of answering the questions on that गलती, right? So that's what I wanted to say. Okay, तो ठीक है. But anyway, going back to the question that we were doing, this one. Okay, so very quickly, so how do I start? Where do I start drawing the diagram? तो मैंने 3 statements पढ़े. I thought कि it would be easier for me if I start here and here maybe. Okay, most persons are individuals, most state are individuals, because यहाँ पे एक ये common term आ रहा है individuals, right? So this is how I start. क्योंकि most involved है, 50 से ऊपर है, right? तो मैं एक और element include कर दूंगा circle में, okay, which is the middle line, right? तो देखो जो 2 सर्कल्स बनाए उन दोनों में ऐसा just draw middle line. तो आपको एकदम एक्यूरेटली बाइसेक्ट नहीं करना है सर्कल को, जस्ट ड्रॉ पॉइंट मिडिल लाइन जो रेफरेंस की तरह काम करे, ठीक है? तो मोस्ट पर्सन था, तो एक सर्कल को बोल देते हैं ये पर्सन है, एंड देन मोस्ट स्टेट, ये स्टेट है. तो मोस्ट पर्सन आर इंडिविजुअल्स, मोस्ट स्टेट आर इंडिविजुअल्स, राइट? तो I'll draw state something like this, individuals something like this. It goes more than half, right? Covers more than half of P and more than half of S, right? And then we are drawing for this statement, which is some companies are state, so some companies are state, right? So if I get the diagram right, yeah, if I get the diagram right, I'll be able to answer this. So whatever diagram you have drawn, right, you can correct the diagram if you have not drawn it correctly. But with this diagram, what do you think is the answer with this diagram, everyone? You may have come up with some answer, but just according to this diagram, what will be the answer? Right. So some of you have indeed answered it correctly even before I asked this question again. So some persons are state. Some persons are state. Is it a definite conclusion? This is the MOD. This is the minimum overlap diagram. Do we see person and state overlap? Everyone, is there an overlap between persons and state? No overlap. So this is not a definite conclusion 1. So what is out? B is out. Okay. Some state are companies. Of course, some state are companies. So 2 is fine. 2 is fine. So none follows, तो नहीं होगा. Third, some companies are persons. Again, not a definite conclusion, so this is out. So the correct answer is C here, everyone. Yeah. Are we good? Yeah, Darshita, good. Okay, okay, okay. Now, तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं कि हम लोग most वाला, let's solve a couple of more questions, right? So it sort of it forms up, okay? And we'll take 1 or 2 questions from previous year and 1 question of my own, okay? So, for example, this had come, I think, in AILET 2023, even though in AILET 2023, all the questions were based on passages, but there was a passage in which there were some 4 to 5 deductive questions. थोड़े conditional थे, थोड़े syllogism थे, थोड़े दोनों के crossover थे. ठीक है? So this was one question that had come. So just solve it. Keep asking your doubts, okay? I'm also looking at the chat window. हाँ, right. तो राघवी, आई थिंक इट इज कृधार राघवी, आई थिंक वो जो आप कह रहे हो, मोस्ट स्टेट्स आर इंडिविजुअल्स, राइट? वो वैसे ही ड्रॉ हुआ था. I'll go back to that question, okay? Let's do this first and then I'll go back to it. And majority किसी ने पूछा है, तो majority is the same thing as most, okay? majority है most. Okay, so let's draw this. तो अभी हम लोग you know, let's see, not throw you off. थोड़ा सा you know, थोड़ा complicated सा statement लग रहा है. Let's just focus on A and B, the first two statements, and draw. Okay, most blankets are sheets and most blankets are tablecloths, right? So blanket is the common sort of circle. तो हमने blanket में there is a middle line going. तो मिडिल लाइन उस सर्कल में बनाएंगे जिसको वो, जैसे यहाँ पे मेजॉरिटी ऑफ ब्लैंकेट्स लिखा था, तो ब्लैंकेट का मोस्ट होना है, तो ब्लैंकेट वाले सर्कल में हमने वो मिडिल लाइन बना दी, राइट? तो मोस्ट ब्लैंकेट्स आर, सो दिस इज ब्लैंकेट्स, राइट? आर शीट्स. तो ये शीट कवर कर रहा है मोर देन हाफ ऑफ ब्लैंकेट. एंड देन blankets are tablecloths. तो tablecloth cover कर रहा है more than half of blanket. Is there an overlap between tablecloth and sheet? 100%. 100% क्या हम बोल सकते हैं? Some sheets are tablecloths. All sheets are tablecloths? That is only a possibility, right? Now, which one is true? Some sheets are tablecloths, 100%. और कोई ऑप्शन सही हो नहीं सकता. But let's try to sort of unpack what C is trying to say. C says no non-blanket sheet. Non-blanket sheet हो गया ये वाला portion, and is a non-blanket tablecloth. तो इन दो regions में overlap नहीं है. जो मैं lines बना रहा हूँ, इन दो regions में overlap नहीं है. So basically what they are trying to say is all sheets are not tablecloths and all tablecloths are not sheets. So they are just denying that possibility, right? So all sheets are tablecloths becomes false in this case. So ये भी गलत ही है, right? So option B is correct. But yes, just solving for A and B, you would have gotten to the correct answer. Okay. But the previous question, okay, Ragvi had some doubt. So I will again mark these circles, okay? तो क्या दिया हुआ था, मोस्ट पर्सन्स आर इंडिविजुअल्स एंड मोस्ट स्टेट्स आर इंडिविजुअल्स। तो अगर मोस्ट पर्सन आर इंडिविजुअल्स तो पी का मोर देन हाफ सर्कल होगा इंडिविजुअल, राइट? Most state are individuals, again state ka more than half will be individuals, and that's what we drew, right? Right. Okay, all right. And this is my question, okay? This is not from a previous year paper, but again testing you on most. Okay, so can you quickly solve this? Okay, so most A are B. So the line that bisects A is here, and most of A is B. So this is how I draw it. Okay, B का सर्कल जरूरी नहीं है कि A के सर्कल के बराबर है, right? It could just be a much bigger circle. So now just it might be sort of now some of you who said कि one follows would be reconsidering, right? क्योंकि B का middle line could be something like this, and then most of B is C could be this, right? So it's not necessary that there is an overlap between A and C. It is only a possibility, right? तो आंसर क्या होगा? वन फॉलोज, टू फॉलोज, नन फॉलो और बोथ फॉलो? व्हाट डू यू थिंक? So the answer to this one will be, okay, there's a certain lag, right? You between while I'm recording and when you are hearing this. So I'll just wait. Okay, so somebody saying none. So actually इसका आंसर होगा either one or two follows. You remember either one or two कब करते हैं? तो आपको मालूम है ये एक पॉसिबिलिटी है. इट्स नॉट 100% फॉलोइंग, लेकिन एक पॉसिबिलिटी है, राइट? एंड ये भी एक पॉसिबिलिटी है, राइट? एंड सम एंड नो, अभी थोड़ी देर पहले हमने बोला था, आर लॉजिकल ऑपोजिट्स. If one is true, the other is false. If one is false, the other is true. तो अगर सम ट्रू है तो नो फॉल्स है, अगर सम फॉल्स है तो नो ट्रू है. इट्स लाइक ब्लैक एंड नॉट ब्लैक. तो जब आपसे बोल रहे हैं एक्स इज ब्लैक, एक्स इज नॉट ब्लैक, राइट? आइदर ऑफ द स्टेटमेंट्स आर ट्रू. वी आर नॉट सेइंग कि दोनों फॉलो नहीं हो रहे. वी आर सेइंग आइदर वन और टू फॉलोस, क्योंकि दोनों में से एक पक्का ट्रू है. सो दिस इज दैट केस कि दोनों पॉसिबल हैं और दोनों आपस में लॉजिकल ऑपोजिट्स हैं. एक ये सम और नो में आएगा और एक आएगा ऑल एंड सम नॉट. तो अगर यहां पर होता ऑल ए आर सी, सम ए आर नॉट सी, वो दोनों भी पॉसिबल होते. और दोनों आपस में ऑपोजिट हैं, तो either one or two follows, right? So this becomes the case of either one or two follows. Okay? तो ये हमने मोस्ट वाला कवर कर लिया है। अगर आप देखोगे सही से तो मैंने इसमें ऑप्शंस दिए ही नहीं थे, ये थोड़ा ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चन था। या ओके, या देयर वर नो ऑप्शंस, बट यस, यहाँ पर अगर आइदर वन और टू दिया होगा, वील मार्क आइदर वन और टू, बट यू नो, जैसे हमने बोला 24 25 में एलेट ने कुछ गलतियां कर दी थी डिडक्टिव क्वेश्चंस में, शायद वो ऐसा क्वेश्चन दे दें और आइदर वन और टू ना दें, चार ऑप्शंस दें, वन फॉलोज, टू फॉलोज, नन फॉलो, बोथ फॉलो, तो अब नन वाला पिक करके आ जाना, बट इट्स नॉट टेक्निकली राइट। The technical sort of technically right answer is either one or two follows in such cases. हाँ, ठीक है, ओके। Let's move on. एक ये वाला भी क्वेश्चन था, ओके, that was asked. Okay, in some way the diagram has already come up on the screen, I'll not remove it, but maybe let's see. Oh yes, it's removed now. Okay, so this question had come, I think in 22 or 24, I'm not very sure, but again this is a previous year question. Can we quickly solve it? Again, it can be solved in the deductive way. Okay, you just attempt it first and then we'll do it together. Okay, तो ठीक है, you know, you know, by the looks of it, थोड़े statements ऐसे लगेंगे कि थोड़े complex से हैं, persuasive, value, binding, and maybe we understand this language also, having done so much of legal reasoning. But then it's not about that. It's just purely a deductive question. Okay, तो देखो, I've drawn this. Okay, तो इसमें मैं mark कर देता हूँ, all Supreme Court judgments binding on High Court. All High Court judgments have persuasive value in other High Courts. Some High Court judgments also have persuasive value in the Supreme Court. We agree with the diagram? Now, one, some High Court judgments are binding on the Supreme Court. We don't see it in the diagram. This is out. Some judgments with persuasive value are binding on High Court. Binding नहीं था, persuasive value था, binding नहीं था. Binding तो ये separate circle है, तो ये भी out. Some High Court judgments are persuasive in both the Supreme Court and the High Courts. Yes, ये वाला portion. Both the High Court and Supreme Court. Right? So 3 is correct. Option C is correct. So if you are good with syllogism, right, we wouldn't take much time solving this one and not sort of trying to wrap our heads around persuasive, value, binding, how do we differentiate between the two, right? We're just treating it as a deductive question. ऑलराइट, ठीक है, नेक्स्ट देखते हैं. So again, right, I'll just repeat कि some of the concepts, and there is a negative conclusion here. यहाँ पे negative conclusion को deal करने के लिए भी I won't go into much detail, ठीक है, because this is a revision class, but I will link that AILET as in Purana syllogism का video, okay, which is a more detailed, and you know all the concepts are being sort of taught in detail. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे we will doing it rather quickly. So just solve this one. All right. So do we need to draw the diagram for this, or have some people arrived at the right answer just like that? I think there's some confusion in the options. Okay, तो यहाँ पे देखो, यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा, यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन थोड़ा गड़बड़ है लग रहा है, as in options have gone a little haywire. So this is C here. Okay, treat this statement as C, right? तो ये ऑप्शन C है, and option B is this one. Okay, this is option B. ठीक है. So we start with the first statement. All buildings constructed with earth tech materials are energy efficient. Okay. So earth tech efficient. Okay. Now the next statement was none of buildings that are energy efficient qualify for government tax rebates. Okay. None of the buildings constructed by Cloud9 are energy efficient. So Cloud9 is not energy efficient. Not energy efficient. So if it is not energy efficient, can I definitely say it is not made of, constructed with earth tech materials? Surely. It's not in the outer circle, it cannot be in the inner circle, right? So the answer is B, yes. B in the sense that this option is correct. Okay, ये C की तरह लग रहा होगा, but yes, I will just do this. Okay, the color hasn't changed. Sometimes the color don't change at all. I don't know why. So this none of the buildings, this answer is correct. Okay, this answer is correct. I'll remove this. This statement is correct, which is option B. ओके, ठीक है, नेक्स्ट देखते हैं. ओके, सो दिस वन वाज द वन व्हिच आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट अर्लियर, कि जहां पर एक नेगेटिव कंक्लूजन है जिसको कंसीडर करना है. सम मैथमेटिशियंस आर नॉट साइंटिस्ट, राइट? सो दिस, so let's solve this one. Okay, again this is a previous year paper. previous year question. D wala, okay. We'll go back to it, okay. Darshita, is it you who asked that? ठीक है. I think you are asking for the previous question. Okay, ठीक है. Let's solve this one and then we'll go back to it, okay. ठीक है. So we'll quickly draw for this. All engineers are mathematicians. Some mathematicians are authors. So we'll start with this, right? ये sum वाले statement से. So some mathematicians are authors. Then all engineers are mathematicians. So I'm drawing engineer. Maybe I'll draw bigger circles. 1 second. Okay. Authors, mathematicians, engineers. Okay. Then no author is a scientist. Some engineers are scientists. Okay, so maybe we have to draw this in a different way. 1 second. So that's what happens if you don't go through the statements first, right? I did the same mistake, but okay. So we'll draw this a little differently. Okay, so this is some engineers are scientists, and then we are given no author is a scientist, something like this. Okay, so this line keeps the diagram clear. No author is a scientist. Okay, some engineers are scientists. So again, I've not really truly drawn a minimum overlap. Minimum overlap में ये engineers और M वाला circle overlap करता है, जहां पर scientist से overlap करना है. But ठीक है, just take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, so this is the diagram. No author is an engineer. No author is an engineer is what we are checking, right? So negative statement को कैसे deal करते हैं? If the negative statement comes up in the conclusion, we take its logical opposite and check for its possibility, right? So no का opposite क्या था? We did this a little earlier. No का opposite था some. So what we do is we check some authors are engineer, whether it is possible. We are not check for its sort of whether it is true or not. We are just checking whether it is possible or not. Okay, possible or not. Okay, so author or engineer में overlap हो सकता है without violating any of the statements. Yes, of course. This circle and this circle can overlap. The only condition is कि author और scientist में overlap नहीं होगा. Author and engineer can overlap. Some overlap can happen. So we are saying yes to this. Yes, this is possible. So if some engineers are authors is a possibility, no author is an engineer is also only a possibility. It does not necessarily follow. So one is out. So the intuition, you can build the intuition around कि अगर हम बोल रहे हैं the pen, right? We have to check the pen is not hot. ये check करना है true है कि नहीं. और हमने बोला द पेन इज हॉट, उसका ऑपोजिट इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी, तो नॉट हॉट क्या हो गया? पॉसिबिलिटी। तो अगर हमने बोला सम ए आर ई इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी, नो ए इज ई is only a possibility, it does not necessarily follow, so one is out. तो कोई भी ऑप्शन वन वाला है that will be goner, तो ये गया, ये गया, ठीक है। नाउ लेट्स चेक द थर्ड वन, ठीक है, क्योंकि टू तो दोनों में ही है, सम साइंटिस्ट आर इंजीनियर्स एंड दैट इज ऑलरेडी गिवन, राइट, सो दैट्स अ नो ब्रेनर। सम मैथमेटिशियंस आर नॉट साइंटिस्ट, अगेन अ नेगेटिव स्टेटमेंट, what we do is take its logical opposite, तो सम नॉट का लॉजिकल ऑपोजिट क्या होगा? ऑल, so the logical opposite is all mathematician are scientist. क्या ये सारे mathematician, can this circle go inside scientist? Everyone, can the M circle completely go inside S? And don't look at its size, कि size feasible नहीं है, right? Just check the logic. M going into S, possible or not? Not possible, because some portion of M is also A, और A और S में ओवरलैप नहीं हो सकता, तो जो ये ओवरलैप पार्ट है बिटवीन M and A, this cannot be in S, right? So all M or S is not possible. Is not possible. So it's like saying, again going to that analogy, अगर हमने बोला not hot के लिए चेक कर रहे हैं, the pen is not hot, और हमें पता है hot possible ही नहीं है, opposite, तो not hot definitely true. So some mathematicians are not scientists, definitely true. So 3 is correct, 2 is correct, and option C is therefore correct. All right. Yeah, Darshita is saying कि वो डायग्राम से भी हम देख पा रहे हैं. Yes, we can, right? तो again Darshita may be somebody, उसने बहुत सारे syllogism के क्वेश्चन किए हैं, so she can just look at the diagram and answer it, so that's okay. Okay, D वाला पूछा था in the previous. Some buildings constructed with earth tech materials do not qualify. Actually इसमें ना ये नेगेटिव स्टेटमेंट था, 1 सेकेंड, ये प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन हम लोग देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे डी में, सम बिल्डिंग्स कंस्ट्रक्टेड, सॉरी, some buildings constructed with earth-tech materials do not qualify for government tax rebates. तो हमको ये दोनों पॉजिटिव स्टेटमेंट्स थे ना, this was a positive statement, and this one, the second statement was also a positive statement, so negative conclusion does not follow, it is a possibility, इसलिए D गलत था. Okay, ठीक है. Okay, we can skip this one. Let's okay, so very quickly, this is the sort of the summary, okay, the summary of what we will do or what we do in syllogism. So positive conclusions में you will get the answer directly from the when. We know that when बनाया, when diagram बनाया, minimum overlap से positive conclusion का answer निकल आएगा, barring that statement that we did, right? Plant भी है और jump भी करता है, that statement. So if it involves two sort of terms, तो उसको doubly check कर लेना. जो simple positive statements हैं, you will get the answer from the minimum overlap diagram. In case of negative conclusion, just as we did, we take the logical opposite of it, If the logical opposite is possible, the negative conclusion does not follow. It is only a possibility. If the logical opposite is not possible, then that negative statement definitely follows, right? So this is the sort of gist. Okay, moving on. We'll take the discussion to conditional reasoning. Again, we will do the basics first, okay, quickly, and then we will solve some questions that have come in previous years, okay. So starts with sufficient and necessary. Okay, for conditional हमने जो basics पे थोड़ी ज़्यादा slides रखी हैं, थोड़ा ज़्यादा time spend करेंगे क्योंकि बहुत सारे बच्चों ने बोला था कि conditional reasoning पूरा revise करना है, right? It will still not be a very detailed session, but yes, we will sort of spend more time on the fundamentals. Okay, so sufficient condition, we understand sufficient would mean enough. If I'm saying X is sufficient for Y, S is sufficient for P, or A is sufficient for B, I'm saying if A is true, B is definitely necessarily true. That's what sufficiency is. So, and whenever there is a doubt कि sufficient क्या है, necessary क्या है, always fall back to this example. So Prime Minister of India is sufficient for citizen of India. If I'm saying somebody is the Prime Minister, it is sufficient to say that they are a citizen. So Prime Minister of India sufficient, citizen of India becomes necessary, right? So sufficient we understand. S guarantees N. If S is true, N is true. All right. Necessary क्या था? So again, taking this example, if I'm saying somebody being a prime minister becomes a sufficient condition for them to be the citizen wala part already becomes the necessary condition for becoming the prime minister. And how do we understand that? That if somebody is not a citizen, the necessary condition is not fulfilled, the sufficient condition will also go false, right? So if they are not a citizen, they are not the prime minister, right? So that's the rule of contrapositive. It's simply put, अगर A और B के terms में, it will come in the next slide, but A और B के terms में अगर हम कह रहे हैं A is sufficient for B, we are drawing this way. जो भी sufficient है वो left of the arrow में आएगा, right? Sufficient of B is necessary, that will come on the right. So A is sufficient for B. What automatically follows is if not B, right, then not A. So ये दोनों statements आपस में एक दूसरे के contrapositive हैं, right? If this is true, this is also true, right? That's the fundamental. Okay, some of the other rules here. Again, very quickly, अगर हमें हमारा को दिया है A then B, that is the given statement, that is where we start. If this is given as true, okay. तो say B then A, Prime Minister, citizen say, citizen then Prime Minister does not follow. It is a possibility though, it's not false, it is a possibility, but it does not follow. उसको हम बोलते हैं mistaken reversal. We are reversing the positions, right, to mistaken reversal because it does not follow. It is only a possibility. Again, A then B say, not A then not B. ये भी follow नहीं करता. It is only a possibility. Again, you can think of not prime minister, not citizen. That does not follow. but it is a possibility. It is not false also. ठीक है, तो A then B से B then A does not follow, not A not B does not follow. What follows is, and that we have seen in that example, not B, not A, not necessary, not sufficient. So this is the only statement that we can derive. Okay, so this I can write as true. Right, so these are the 4 fundamental rules. Okay, तो हमारे sufficient वाले words कौन से हैं that will tell us in that particular statement? अगर if वाला statement है, when वाला statement है, whenever वाला statement है, which part of the statement is sufficient condition and which part is necessary, right? तो ये वाले words introduce sufficiency. So we have to we must know the sufficient wale words: if, when, whenever, where, wherever, every, all, any, and then these are the examples. So what I'll also do is I'll give you this presentation. I will link this in the video today. Okay, so these are the example. Where there is fire, very quickly, where there is fire, so fire becomes sufficient. Sufficient for what? Smoke. तो where जिसको point कर रहा है वो sufficient है. या something like whenever Sachin plays, India wins. So Sachin playing becomes sufficient and this becomes necessary. So fire then smoke. Sufficient वाला part left में, necessary वाला part right में. और इससे और क्या follow करता है? No smoke, no fire. Right? Contrapositive इसका follow करेगा. और something like every political party has a symbol, right? So political party sufficient, symbol necessary on the right. इससे और क्या follow कर रहा है? No symbol, not a political party. Okay. And yes, there is a necessary list also, which is this one. तो sufficient वाले words sufficient condition introduce कर रहे थे, necessary वाले words necessary वाली condition introduce करेंगे. Okay, so then only if, only when, only where. Okay, so you can vote only if you are 18. तो 18 क्या बन गया? Necessary for voting, which becomes sufficient, right? Or something like to participate in the annual ball, you must have a partner. So partner is necessary, it will come on the right. Participation in the ball will come on the left. No partner, no ball, no participation. Or something like this, only the best can defeat me. So best के आगे only लिखा है. So best will become necessary, it will come on the right. And defeating me comes on the left. Not the best, you cannot defeat me. So it does not matter कि statement में उसकी position क्या है. Statement में जैसे यहाँ पे best is on the left, right? So it does not matter. अगर वो necessary है, it will come on the right side of the arrow. Okay. All right. Then जो हमारे necessary वाले conditional words थे, उनमें these 3 a little special because we treat them somewhat differently. These 3 words are unless, until, and without. And from the looks of it, you understand why these would be different, because they carry a negative connotation: unless, until, without. So when they come in a statement, how do we deal with that conditional statement? How do we draw the conditional diagram, arrow diagram, right? So let's see. So we are given this statement: we cannot gather in protest unless we have a permission. So from that statement, we understand that permission is necessary, क्योंकि unless एक necessary condition introduce करता है, right? So permission is necessary. Now the permission is necessary For what? For not gathering in protest or for gathering in protest? For gathering in protest, right? So we take down permission on the right of the arrow because it is necessary. On the left, what it is necessary for is gather in protest. तो आप देखो जो स्टेटमेंट का लेफ्ट वाला जो सफिशिएंट वाला पार्ट था उसको हमने निगेट कर दिया है, कैन नॉट चला जाता है, राइट? अदरवाइज द स्टेटमेंट विल नॉट मेक सेंस. सो द रूल इज कि जो भी अनलेस के बाद आएगा that will come on the right of the arrow, that will become the necessary part in the conditional diagram. The remaining part on negation will come on the left. So this becomes my conditional diagram. Okay, permission is necessary to gather in protest. So this is how I draw. और until और without का same rule है, कोई complication नहीं है. So we have a statement, there cannot be a party without music. Okay, so cannot be a party without music. Without music, so without will introduce necessary, music is necessary. For what? Not partying, partying, right? So cannot will go. So music will come on the necessary side, the remaining part will come on the sufficient side, but we negate it to make sense of the statement so that the statement is consistent. The diagram is consistent with the actual meaning of the statement. So this becomes the diagram. Music is necessary for party. Another, we have until also. So until introduces necessary. So Ram will become, arrival of Ram will become necessary for what? Starting, not starting nahi. So not will go, not will go. So this becomes the conditional diagram. So this is how we deal with unless, until, without. Okay. All right. I think we have a question. In the classes we have done this, but then since it is a revision class, we can do it one more time. So there is a question from AILET 2011. I'll give you some time to solve it, and then we'll do it together. Okay, so you cannot taste success in life unless you work hard. So work hard becomes necessary for what? Tasting success. So cannot chala jayega, right? So taste success, arrow work hard on the right. You cannot be happy unless you taste success. Unless again introduces necessary. So taste success will become necessary for what? Happy. Cannot be happy nahi, right? So cannot chala jayega, happy. So this is the diagram we get. And we can form a conditional chain from this. Happy, taste success, and taste success, work hard. From this, we can draw the conclusion that if you are happy, then you work hard. Or working hard is necessary to be happy. Which option matches? Look at option B. You cannot be happy unless you work hard. Work hard necessary for what? Being happy, right? This is what we get from the diagram. So option B is correct. Okay. Then, so this was tested, unless was tested in AILET, and so was either or and cannot be both. मतलब either or का तो I think we are doing a question. Cannot be both का I haven't included a question in this particular presentation, but yes, let's look at the rules. So either or, how do we treat it? तो आइदर और को जब हम हिंदी में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं कि दोनों में से एक, तो वो कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है। आइदर और को आप बस ऐसे समझो, व्हेन आई एम सेइंग आइदर ए और बी, then what I am implying in the conditional world is one of them is definitely true. If I'm saying either tea or coffee, then I'll take one, at least one of them. One of them I'll definitely take, right? So how do we draw? One of them definitely true है, उसको draw कैसे करेंगे? If not A, I'll again write it here separately. If it is not A, because one of them is definitely true. If it is not A, then it is B. If it is not B, then it is A. Now, if you look closely, they are also contrapositive, reverse and negate, reverse and negate. हो जाता ना A then B, not B, not A, contrapositive. वैसे ये contrapositive है, not A then B, not B then A. Okay. So this is how we treat either or the sufficient side, the left side we negate. Okay. कैनॉट बी बोथ में क्या होता है, यहाँ पे लेफ्ट वाला साइड निगेट कर रहे हैं, कैनॉट बी बोथ में राइट वाला साइड निगेट करते हैं, राइट? Okay, first let's solve this question that had come in AILET 2015, okay, on either or, and the rule I'll sort of keep it on the screen so that you know it helps you get to the answer. And we will be discussing some more questions, crossover questions, okay? So just sort of remain live on the session. Okay, so not A then B tha, not B then A tha. Either Amir is angry or shows mock anger. This is nothing but this is A for me and this is B for me. तो हमको कैसा आंसर चाहिए? Not angry, mock anger. Not mock anger, angry. तो कहाँ पे दिया है? Not angry, ये not angry. Then mock anger. Not mock anger, then angry. 4-1, 3-2, राइट? तो सफिशिएंट साइड पहले आएगी, नेसेसरी साइड बाद में. तो आप देखो ऑप्शन डी इज करेक्ट. नॉट ए देन बी, सिंपली नॉट ए देन बी. ओके, so this is not A. Okay, Darshita, you get this? All right. Cannot be both देख लेते हैं. तो either और में क्या था कि we were negating the sufficient side, not A then B, not B then A. Cannot be both में we negate the necessary side. बोल रहे हैं कि both cannot be true at the same time. So how do we show it? If A is true, B is false. If B is true, A is false. They cannot be true at the same time. So one cannot be both corrupt and righteous. If one is corrupt, they are not righteous. If they are righteous, they are not corrupt. We are negating the necessary side. There we were negating the sufficient side. So that's the difference. Remember it, okay? Either or में sufficient side negate कर रहे हैं, cannot be both में necessary side. So sometimes we may get a conditional sort of statement like this. To vote, one must be an Indian citizen and minimum 18 years old. So we will just do it the same way as we do normal conditional statement, जहाँ पर एक ही condition है, यहाँ पे actually necessary में दो हैं, right? This is 1 and this is 2. So voting is sufficient for being as an Indian, for being Indian, and 18 minimum, because these two are necessary and there is an and between the two. When we take its contrapositive, तो contrapositive का वही वाला rule है, A then B, not B, not A. So not Indian, not 18, not B. ये and when it changes side from right to left, it will become or. तो ये rule है, okay? तो जब भी and वाला हो, दो necessary conditions हैं, अगर contrapositive लेंगे और necessary को left side लेके जाएंगे, तो वो वाला and will change into or. तो वो rule का intuition क्या है? When I'm saying to vote, one must be an Indian citizen and minimum 18, right? What I'm saying is, if you are not an Indian citizen, not Indian, or not minimum 18, right, you will not be able to vote. दोनों में से एक भी condition false हो गई, you will not be able to vote. That's what this statement tells us, right? So changing it to or makes complete sense. Okay? और ऐसा नहीं है कि right से left जा रहा है तो और होगा, लेफ्ट से राइट भी जाएगा तब भी और बन जाएगा, और अगर और है ओ आर तो वो एंड बन जाएगा, राइट? सो दिस इज द जेनेरिक sort of way. This is the generic way of showing it. If it is A then B or C, contrapositive will become not B, not C, and this or has changed into and. So not B and not C, then not A. This will be the contrapositive. Or something like A and B, then C, right? So C will go there, not C, not A, not B, and this and will change into or. Remember, this is the contrapositive. If the given statement is true, the contrapositive is true. In fact, the two statements, जो statement है और उसका contrapositive, they are telling us the same thing. वो पीछे वाले में जैसे आपने देखा था, ये वाला statement, if one is true, the other is true. ये हमको एक ही बात बता रहे हैं. They are conveying the same meaning to us, same message, right? So that's what a contrapositive is. If you have gotten confused, okay. Let's do this question, okay. Let's do this question. Conditional. This was asked in AILET, I think, 2022. Okay, so if it is sunny, I can go running. So sunny, running. If है ना, so sunny is sufficient to run. It is not sunny. Not sunny. What can I say? Not running. A then B say not A, not B. Follow नहीं करता. It is only a possibility, right? तो possibility का मतलब not R हो भी सकता है, R भी हो सकता है. So it's not definite. क्या definite होता? Not R, not S. तो अगर ये true है तो ये true है, right? ये वाला possibility वाला है. So I cannot go running today. Not sure. I can go running today. Not sure. Walking is out. D is correct. Simple. Okay. So AILET 2022. Next देखते हैं. All right. So this was what I was talking about. So in many questions, and we'll solve some right now. Many questions in AILET are kind of a crossover questions, जहाँ पर syllogism और conditional दोनों का test है, right? It can be solved conditional way. It can also solve. It can also be solved the syllogism way, right? It's just that how I sort of perceive it and go about solving it, right? And we'll solve some. So uske pehle, these are the two things that I want you to not only understand, it also memorize, as in not only memorize but also understand. Okay, तो अगर if A then B है, उसका equivalent statement है all A are B. इसका intuition समझने के लिए ऐसे कर लो, अगर मैं कह रहा हूं if it is a whale, it is a mammal, and we agree with that statement. And then I'm saying all whales are mammals, we agree with that statement, right? So if whale then mammal and all whales are mammals are the same statement logically. So if A then B is drawn, minimum overlap, ये है if A then B. Remember this, if or all, same cheese, right? Only is different. If तो sufficient introduce कर रहा था, only necessary introduce कर रहा है. Only A or B, तो ये all A or B नहीं है. If A then B is all A or B. Only A or B is all B or A. तो इसको देख लेते हैं. Only A or B, तो A will become necessary for B, sufficient. Okay. Now, how do I draw this? If I'm saying A is necessary for B, A is necessary for B, B then A. यहाँ पे क्या था? If A then B, A then B. B was on the right, A on the left. तो अगर A then B का डायग्राम ये है, तो B then A का डायग्राम क्या होगा? B A. Okay. So just if you sort of take some time to build the intuition, just memorize it. If A then B, all A are B. Only A are B, all B are A. ठीक है, ये just remember this. And then let's solve a question on this, which was again asked in either 24 or 23, but this is a previous year question. Okay, let's solve this. Okay, all right, so there was a slight disruption, everyone, but we are starting from where we left off. We were solving this question, and right before this, what we were doing was we are treating if A then B, it is an logically equivalent statement to all A or B, and only A or B is logically equivalent to all B or A. Right? With this in mind, let's solve this question. All right, so before, one way was to start drawing the minimum overlap diagrams for these statements, right? But before doing that, what I'll do is let me look at it from a conditional way, because that way it becomes easier to handle. वो circles वाला Venn diagram banana can become a little complicated, but वो arrow diagrams, the conditional diagrams, will sort of make the path easier. Okay, so what's given to us? Only tigers are fish, right? So only tigers are fish. So tiger is necessary. Fish is sufficient. Only rabbits are fish. Necessary, sufficient. Rabbits becomes necessary in this statement for tigers. We'll deal with the last statement in the end, but these three statements, we can sort of read them as draw the conditional diagram for that. So conditional diagram tells us that for the first one, fish on the left, tigers on the right, then fish again on the left for the second one, and rabbit on the right, and then again rabbit on the right and tiger on the left, right? So these are the three conditional diagrams for the three statements. So what do you make of it? Has it become a little easier for me to handle? Yes, it has. Just look at this. All F are R. Now I'm reading it the syllogism way. All F are R, all T are F, all F are T. ठीक है, तो अब इसको ड्रॉ करना थोड़ा आसान हो गया है. तो all F are T and all T are R. Yes or no? And this statement is already covered. ये वाली statement को draw करने की जरूरत नहीं है. When we are drawing this and this gets covered. All F are R, right? So what it has done, because I understand conditional reasoning, what it has done is it has made this question more manageable for me, right? Everyone. Now let's look at these and then there is the statement is some deer are tigers. So some deer are tigers is this, right? So again, it's not purely a minimum overlap diagram, but we can do with this, right? Purely overlap diagram में ये वाला part इससे coincide कर रहा होता, but that's okay. We will be able to do the question with this diagram. Okay. Now look at this first statement. If A is a rabbit, A is also a deer. Is this the case? If A is the rabbit, A is a deer? Nope. So this is out. If B is a deer, B is also a rabbit. If B is a deer, B is a rabbit. Is that the case? Because deer and rabbit, there is some overlap, but not complete overlap. That is only a possibility, right? So this is out. Some deer are fish. Now just look at the minimum overlap diagram. Some deer are, tiger, which is given. Some deer are also rabbit. Some deer are tiger. ये वाला statement दिया था. On account of that, some deer are rabbit. But inner circle से overlap है, that is not sure. Okay, so this is also out. And then some deer are rabbits. Yes, of course, some deer are rabbits. So fourth is correct. Option A is correct. Just go through this question, okay? And let me know if there are any doubts in the chat. Okay, so very quickly, I'll just very quickly repeat this. Only tigers are fish. Tiger necessary for fish. Only rabbits are fish. Rabbit necessary for fish. Only rabbits are tigers. Rabbit is necessary for tiger. When we look at this, all fish are tigers. All fish are rabbits. All tiger are rabbits. We were able to draw this Venn diagram. And lastly, we were given some deer are tigers, and this we drew. Now the question has become easier for me to manage, right? So option A is correct. Okay, let's do another. let's do this one. Again, AILET, I think 2024 paper. Okay, let's do this. So again, when I'm looking at this question, I think that it will be easier for me to answer if I do it the conditional way, if I draw the conditional diagrams. So we have some conditional statements starting with if, but we also have an all statement which fits the syllogism statement, also fits the conditional statement. But yes, we can draw conditional diagram even for the first two statements. We're just treating it as if, right? Now, all black money funds terrorist activities, right? So black money funds, I'll write it here. Black money funds terrorist activities. All terrorist activities are financed solely by corrupt politicians. So I'll just draw the conditional chain. Black money, terrorist activities funded. So solely is like only. ठीक है, conditional में solely only. तो only is necessary, but we already know कि all से ही ये हो जा रहा है necessary, right? So it's okay. So corrupt politicians wala part is necessary for funding of terrorist activities. Okay. Now, if Lokpal bill is passed, Lokpal bill is passed, bill, okay, what will happen? All assets and financial sources of all corrupt politicians will be frozen. So basically, financing by corrupt politicians will not happen, right? If demonetization is declared, all black money will disappear. So black money will disappear. So these are the three conditional statements from, as in there were four, but ये second वाली और first वाली को हमने combine कर दिया था. So three conditional statements. Now that you know you have these conditional statements in front of you, what do you think is the correct answer? So level of difficulty, Vaibhav, ये है, somebody is asking me कि is this the level of difficulty we anticipate? I'm telling you कि this is a AILET 24 question, I think 24 था या 25 था, right? So such questions can easily be asked. Okay, तो क्या करते हैं, पहला स्टेटमेंट देखते हैं. So before that, what comes to my mind immediately is after seeing these two statements, okay, कि लोकपाल बिल नो सीपी. तो देखो ये वाला जो स्टेटमेंट था कि ब्लैक मनी funding by funding terrorist activities and corrupt politicians. So if I take the contrapositive of this, not B, not A, तो ये कुछ ऐसा आ जाएगा, not CP, and we then take this, not funding of terrorist activities, then no B, right? ये इस तरीके का contrapositive है. तो वैसा था A, B, C, contrapositive हो गया not C, not B, not A. Now, and look at the second वाला statement, लोकपाल bill, not CP. हमको दिया है लोकपाल bill, not CP. और not CP से क्या हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि not FT, no funding, and no whatever black money funding. Okay, so this we can draw. इन दोनों को कंबाइन करेंगे, इसका कॉन्ट्रापॉजिटिव, वन का कॉन्ट्रापॉजिटिव और टू को अगर कंबाइन करेंगे लॉजिकली, this is what we get. Okay, now look at the first one. If demonetization is declared, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. तो देखो D not B दिया हुआ था, और not B से we cannot conclude anything because B is on the left side of the arrow. क्या था? A then B. Remember this? A then B. Not A से कुछ conclude कर पाएंगे? नहीं. Not A, not B is only a possibility. हम क्या conclude कर पाते हैं किससे? Not B, then not A. This is what we want, right? So demonetization is declared, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. We are not sure of this. If the Lokpal bill is passed, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. Yes, Lokpal bill passed, no funding by corrupt politicians and therefore no funding of terrorist activities, so no funding by black money, right? So ये chain बन गई थी हमारी. So 2 is correct. One second. Now third, if demonetization is declared and Lokpal bill is passed, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. Now we already know if Lokpal bill is passed, this chain will follow, right? तो ये वाला जो statement है ना, इसमें demonetization का कोई काम नहीं है, right? अगर demonetization हटा देंगे तो वो second वाला ही statement की तरह हो जाएगा. तो demonetization से add करने से भी कुछ नहीं होगा. हमको तो मालूम है if Lokpal bill is passed, no CP, no funding, no black. We already know this. So from this condition only, Lokpal bill की condition से ही ये statement true हो जा रहा है. Demonetization does not create any impact. So 3 is also true. So the correct answer will be D, Delhi. Let me know. Okay, so let it sink in. Okay, if you have any doubts, what you can also do is we keep looking at the comment section also. If you have any doubts, you can post it in the comment section if you view this video at a later time. Okay, we will reply to it. Okay, all right, let's do this one. This is interesting again. Okay, so it's given to us if a majority of spoons are forks, and this is the question is not difficult. It's just that if we sort of be careful about the question stem itself. Now, in this question, they are not asking you which one of the following is true, right? Many people read it that way and sort of they got confused. Again, this is, I think, AILET 23 or 24, not 23, but I think 24 or 25. Okay. So could be true is they are asking you which one of them is a possibility. Now, if it is given to me, if a majority of spoons are forks, okay, it's like most SRF. So most का मैं मालूम है, it is 51 to 100. Okay. Now, a majority of forks, so most SRF, most FRS, maybe, right? So that's fine. Minority of forks are spoons. That also is a possibility. It could be a majority, it could be minority. We are not sure. But we are asked the possibility of it. Could be true. Yes, it is a possibility. All forks are spoons. Yeah, that also is a possibility. Right? So the correct answer is D, Delhi. So I think there were a couple of questions, right, in the previous AILETs 24 and 25, where the question stem that such phrasing was used. Could be true. Remember, when they're asking you could be true, they're asking you for statements that are possible, not 100% true. They're asking for you for statements that are possible. Okay. So that's why I brought this question up today. Then let's try this one. Again, this one could be handled in, because we have done enough deductive. This one could be handled without drawing any of the diagrams. Just we might just arrive at the correct answer using intuition. Just check this one. Okay, so it says a majority of Formula One cars are race cars. All race cars drive on four wheels. And if somebody would have looked at the options right before even starting solving the question, you would have some sense as to how do I approach it. So just look at the options here. In a Formula One race, a non-four-wheel car will never be able to win. In a Formula One race, the winner of a race amongst 20 cars can be predicted. And then finally, in an Indy 500 race, where all participating cars are race cars, the winner of race among 50 cars can be predicted, right? So it's talking about whether we can predict which car will win, right? So now let's go over the statements. So it says all four-wheeled cars are 20 times as fast. So maybe what I'll do is we'll quickly convert this into a Venn diagram, right? That makes the question somewhat easier to sort of manage. So we are given a majority of F1 cars are race cars. So F1 ka majority. So there is a middle line and majority of them are race cars. And then it says all race cars are four-wheel cars. And then it says all four-wheel cars are 20 times. I think whether it is 20 or 15, that does not really matter. We have seen the options, that is not being tested. But what is being tested is which are fast. So they are fast, or four-wheeled cars are fast than any other sort of car. And any other car would mean car running on 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 wheels, right? Other than 4 wheels, right? So they are fast. They are the fastest amongst, different cars running on different number of wheels. Okay. Now, in a Formula One car race, a non-four-wheeled car will never be able to win. Yes, that looks correct. Okay. The only thing is, there's some little assumption that they are not competing with other non-four-wheeled cars. If there is a four-wheeled car in the mix, then of course a non-four-wheeled car will not win, right? That is for sure. So that little assumption is sort of, that's a little jump that is needed, because there's no option that says none of the above. So A looks reasonably well. B, in a Formula One race, the winner of a race among 20 cars can be predicted with only the number of wheels that a car drives on. That may look tempting in the beginning, but it is only a possibility. Why? For example, there are four-wheeled cars in the race and 3 six-wheeled cars. 4-wheeled and 3 six-wheeled cars. So what you can sort of predict is the 4-wheeled cars will do better than the 6-wheeled cars. That's for sure. But will you be able to predict the exact winner? No, because some of the 4-wheeled cars would be competing amongst themselves, right? So this is only a possibility. So B is out. A is still better. In an Indy 500 race where all participating cars are race cars, all participating cars are race cars, so they're all four-wheeled, right? A winner among 50 can be predicted. No, if they're all four-wheeled, we can't predict. For example, if it is one four-wheeled and one six-wheeled, then I can predict. Not here, right? So C is also out. So option A is correct here. So as I said, the Venn diagram may not have come to sort of use here. Some of the students would have solved it just pure common sensically. That's okay. But sometimes when you get these questions, and there was one condition also, by the way, speed is the only determining factor, right? We sort of didn't read that statement, but yes, that also plays a role. So if you get these sort of a mix of syllogism statements and conditional statements in a question, what you can either do is treat all of them as syllogism statements. हमने अभी वो equivalents बता दिए. If का all only में वो reverse हो जाता है, तो वो equivalent use करके या तो सबको syllogism बना लो या all वाले को conditional में convert कर दो, right? तो जिससे the question becomes easier to handle, right? So I think we'll keep it till here, okay? What we have done is we have discussed many questions, especially from the later sort of AILETs 21, 22, even some from 23, 24, and 25. Okay, so this will give you some sense as to how these syllogism deductive questions are asked in AILET. The paper again could be very different from what we have done. So just sort of you have to understand in whichever way the question is presented, it will, it will be rooted in these rules, right, that we have discussed today. So just stay true to the rules. When in doubt, fall back on the rules. I'll say this, don't fall back on your intuition. Fall back on the rules, because deductive may, our intuition and the logical rules may not align. Okay, so just, and this is the revision class, and we are about to take Clat in a few days. I'm sure you have already done many deductive questions, right? So maybe intuition has developed in that manner that now it aligns with the rules. But then just be safe when you are solving these questions. Thoda sa doubt hai, just fall back to the rules. Or wo equivalent statements yaad rakhna. If A, then B, all A are B. Only A are B, all B are A, right? If sort of we get those crossover questions, right? Syllogism, conditional crossover questions, change it into one sort of format and then solve. All right, I think I'll end this here. As I said earlier, we will be covering some more topics day after tomorrow. It will include assumption, statement assumption, strong and weak arguments, and some miscellaneous types covering method of reasoning, right, and exchange, right, those questions wherein there is speaker 1 and speaker 2, and we are looking at the response of speaker 2. Such questions have been asked previously. Again, most of the questions that we'll do in that session would be previous year questions. Okay. So I'll leave it till here, everyone, and happy sort of preparing for the AILET. All the best for your preparation. I'll see you soon before the exam. Take care. Bye-bye.